good afternoon, morning, whenever you are deciding to watch this broadcast. I am so excited to welcome you to Overwatch All-Stars Brawl as we are within the winner's bracket of Week 2. Today is Kryix versus the Hog Mafia. I will be your play-by-play caster username underscore Intel, here joined by Mr. Acronator, the lovely man himself. However, we do a quick introduction as we bring in a wonderful manager, player, whatever they want to be. Introduce yourself because we have the first interview.
Hello. I'm PDK. I'm a manager for Kryix, but I also play sometimes. And yeah, that's kind of what I do. Book scrims, make sure players are happy, and yeah.
That is fairly interesting. So I'm going to kick off this interview by the first question. It is, so far it's only been week 2, but you've had the ability to scope out all the other teams. So has there been anyone that's been catching your eye?
Definitely Andy's daycare, just because us as a team and as a coaching staff, we all know how much they can do and how much experience all their players have. Like Infected with his trials, Skyward going to trials, Angelic with contenders with Susanu. And they're all really talented players, and as a team, they're very terrifying to play against, and we're really excited to see if we can play them. And yeah, them and Shikigami. Shikigami has been making a very big statement in this entire tournament. We just saw them previously in the broadcast against Andy's Daycare doing very well. And we've also seen them a lot of other teams as well, and just us scrimming them. We think and we know that they're a very solid team that everyone should be scared of.
Well, I guess it's funny that you mentioned both of those teams, because if you guys win, obviously this game, the next round, you'll end up facing Andy's Daycare. So I guess I kind of have to ask, and this applies to this game as well, as a manager for such a high-ranking team in Tier 3, right? How do you prepare your players mentally for this kind of game, right? Obviously the competition is rather stiff.
We're a very light environment team. We like to make jokes, not tense up, and we've also been scrimming really high recently. We really want to win this tournament. We want to prove ourselves, make a statement in Tier 3. So yeah, it's kind of just more of getting the VOD reviews from our coaching, scrimming high, making sure the team genuinely enjoys being around each other, because you don't want to be on a team that right after scrims, you're out of VC, you're gone. You guys want a family to build around, and that's what we try to bring to the table here is we're just a family. At the end of the day, all our players love playing with each other. They're all very talented players, and I think that gives us the edge over a lot of the teams.
That is fairly. Sometimes I never really think about that. But I guess kind of a question is, because you're going up against Hog Mafia, and I've had the chance to cast their first game, so I kind of know what they run and experience. But it brings to me the question, do you feel like there is a defining meta that Tier 3 kind of has to go by if they want the chance to win, or it really is just what you're best at?
From my experience, we just saw it in the past OD. Like teams like Lanky Kang playing the Junkrat comps and the Best Bud comp as well. In particular, getting the third place, just playing the comps that they feel comfortable on, playing the heroes they want to play. There is no defined meta, especially in Tier 3. It's a lot of play what you're comfortable at and play what you guys can play to the best of your ability. Just like a team like Hog Mafia. I know Strider as the ball in Tier 3, like the ball to beat. And neutral as well as these end players. So it's kind of just what your team, I feel like, wants to play, especially. There's a lot of diversity in comps in Tier 3. There's a lot of the Brawl teams. There's a lot of the Double Shield teams. There's the Ball teams like Gaia and Hog Mafia, who's about to play. And there's the Double Bubble teams. And then there's the teams that can do it all. So I don't think there is a defined meta, but I also think that if you want to win, you have to play to your best ability and the best comp you can.
All right, well, you kind of answered my question in that too, so that's all I've got. Intel, do you have anything more?
No, I really don't. So pretty much, you can say whatever you want, let people know, and get them hyped for this upcoming match.
Check out my Twitter. It's PDK Kid with a 1. That's kind of all I gotta say. And watch out for Maxwell. Just picked him up, fresh out of Drifters.
Ooh.
Yeah, just, he's been popping off in scrims, so definitely keep an eye out on him.
Alright, well, we are excited. You're free to go and enjoy, get your players ready. But Mr. Acronator, that means we're here and we get to warm everyone up back into All-Star Brawl, because so far the season's been fairly interesting, not the way I've been going, but how about for you?
Yeah, a lot of these teams have honestly shown a different side of themselves that we haven't seen in the past, right? I mean, we just saw Shikigami lose to Andy's Daycare, which a lot of people, from what I saw in the Twitch chat, were expecting the exact opposite to happen, right? So I think there's this entire tournament, or at least the early rounds, seem to be the story of the underdogs in a big way. Maybe a little bit of underestimating their opponents. I don't get the feeling either of these teams are going to be underestimating each other today, just based off of how they played their last round. The way PDK talked, at the very least, they're not underestimating Hog Mafia. So it's going to be very interesting to see, in particular, because the first map, as you may have already seen, is not going to be Control like oftentimes it is. The first map is actually going to be Volskaya Industries. So we're starting on 2CP. A little bit of an interesting map, right? We talked a bit about Hog Mafia loving their Wrecking Ball composition. They can certainly try to get away with it here. It'd definitely be unorthodox compared to like the stereotypical double bubble or like the Maycree brawl that we've seen in the past. Certainly see some teams trying to pull out some kind of weird flank or odd rotations, make it work, right? At this level, as like PDK said, as long as they're playing their win conditions correctly, I can see just about anything going. So I'm going to be very interested to see how Hog Mafia plays into, if they decide to play the Wrecking Ball comp that they're known for, if how they decide to play into a map that doesn't necessarily work towards their strategy by default.
Listen here, Mr. Acronator. Alright, like I said, I got to cast Hog Mafia week 1. And I hope you're wearing socks, because they're going to be blown up. Hog Mafia is so dedicated to this composition, and they run it well. It's honestly a little impressive at times, especially because they have players mostly from all around the world of like South America and such, so they sometimes may be suffering from ping issues, and yet they're so coordinated. I haven't gotten much to see their opponent's Kryix to kind of how they do, so it's more of me looking at them, seeing how they're prepared, and then seeing if Hog Mafia can kind of run it on Volskaya Industries, because I think the Wrecking Ball competition does really well here, but I don't think it thrives off Volskaya, unlike in possibly like a Hanamura or Temple of Anubis.
Yeah, definitely. And while we're at it, I've just received word that the MVP poll is now live. So if you scroll down to the About section on the Twitch channel, you should be able to find that. Vote for the player you want us to interview at the very end of this series, regardless of who wins. It can be someone from the losing team, it can be someone from the winning team. But you get to choose, so please vote for that and follow all socials for Star Esports as well while you're at it, since they were kind enough to put on this tournament for all these tier 3 teams to show their stuff. We still have a few seconds, about 30 to 40 seconds, before we actually get to see what these teams want to play, and as well as, you know, they get to tease us and spawn a little bit, so we won't worry too much about their compositions until the gates open. But like we said, we're going to have whatchamacallit, Hog Mafia on the offense first, so at the very least they're going to be able to potentially set that continuation condition, I like to call it, if they can full capture the entire points. Volskaya isn't necessarily the worst 2CP, as opposed to something like Hanamura or Temple of Anubis, which I believe are also in the map pool, you know, where the second point is considerably harder to capture on those. Volskaya, the defenders at the very least have to walk a bit further than out of spawn. Hey, look, we're here. So as the gates are going to be opening in a second here, it looks like no real surprises. Dive on the side of Kryix and Wrecking Ball on Hog Mafia, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised to see them run out on this. They want to be looking for those opportunities. The goth dive, of what you can call it, from the side of Kryix. Look at that. Already the dive comes in. They're making sure to block off. They want to try to find out those supports before the fight can really start. We do see both of the divas getting hacked, but the dive is moving in, being able to take out neutral and put pressure onto the Brigitte, who's getting as much PL as possible. There's not much you can do with. There's an entire 6-man on you just trying to shut you down.
I absolutely love this aggression from Kryix. It's almost exactly what you need to do, right? Because these Wrecking Ball compositions play most of the time in like a 2-4 split, right? So you're going to have Wang Huzhang playing off to the side with Strider, right? They're going to be going on a flank, and then the rest of the team is going to be bunkering around Lunacy, trying to make those rotations and be ready to dive in when the collapse happens. But Kryix isn't even allowing that to take place in the first place, right? They're just taking the fight before the rotation's completed. That makes it awkward.
They get an interesting hack onto Ram first, but Depresso's going to be the first one gone. They need that Sombra alive for the hack to be able to find out the Zenyatta, especially with that Pulse Bomb not finding much. They kind of need a second to regroup and find the next target to dive. They do put pressure onto Strider, but he's just barely going to escape with the Tracer following them as well. So they're going to be using this Coalescence as a way to regroup in this fight. Mocha is gone down first, and they kind of need that break because the Zenyatta's stuck on the high ground and is eventually going to be melted down. It's a bit unfortunate how they're just not being allowed to play the game.
Yeah, especially because you have Hog Mafia, who builds up a lot of their ultimates surprisingly fast, but they didn't really get the chance to use them in that fight, right? I'd say they definitely had an ultimate advantage. They still kind of do, although it's more even now. Actually, have Strider, yeah, he will get staggered as well, so you'd have Long, who just has to back out as well. In particular, the challenge here is really going to be protecting neutral, the Zenyatta on the side of Hog Mafia, because the Zen is incredibly important for these Wrecking Ball compositions. The Discord Orb, as you can imagine, gives so much extra damage. But this 6-man dive that we're seeing from Kryix is really good on diving on these little squishy targets.
Yeah, to try to play against it, they used to rally early. Both of the EMPs getting a decent amount, but it looks like the bomb from Hyrax is just going to be starting to get more value. The entirety of the team are just stuck playing at the choke, and the hack is still somewhat hitting. So even as the pulse bomb comes out, Wang is just immediately going to be punished. It seems they have planned thoroughly for this.
Yeah, I think PDK was definitely being serious when he said they were ready for this Wrecking Ball composition, right? They know other teams are playing it in the tournament as well. And despite Depresso falling a few times in the middle of these fights, nothing's really come of that, right? Like, Hog Mafia's had a really tough time even getting through the choke point, and they're now only with a minute remaining. They have ults, but I mean, where are they going to use them?
And they do go with the Torbjorn, and it seems that Budget's going to be the one going down first in this fight. That's not the worst thing, but it is terrible because they need that monkey for the quick initiation. Strider does have mines, but the hack is going to be denying them from using it early. With the Torbjorn on the field, those turrets are going to be stopping the Sombra from being allowed to poke, and eventually they find out Hirsch with a small bit of poke. The rest of the team are looking like they want to stay back. A possible contest. However, the ultimates are on to the side of Hog Mafia. We see those mines placing perfectly. The Coalescence is trying to help out Budget, but just not enough, as we see the rest of the team just eventually just walking into the mines, not going to be having enough sustained value, ult charge, or the ability to. It just seems that Hog Mafia got a bit lucky around this time, and they'll be able to move this to second point.
That definitely got dicey, right? Because if they lost that point, or they lost that fight, then that basically would have been a full hold. Side note, Strider's rollout to second point, and he's already in second point, he's ready to go. That was honestly really cool, really smooth, almost reminded me of a Lucio rollout. But either way, you look at the ultimates on the side of the defense, Kryix, and they're a little bit anemic right now, whereas Hog Mafia have both support ults. They're going to have DPS ults about midway through the fight, and they have the Diva Bomb, so they can definitely engage and potentially go for a snowball.
Yeah, they decided to use the Transcendence for Strider just to be able to recontest back in this fight and start putting pressure. Additionally, with the rally, it somewhat works out in their favor. They're using that turret and the high noon just to put pressure onto that shield, eventually the burst down Budget. Without the tank onto the point, they're going to be able to start getting those 2 ticks, and eventually the Molten Core just splashing around. It seems all they really needed was a Swiss man just being all around the map. Eventually that Pulse Bomb also is going to be just shut down. The rest of their team is slowly being pressured out, and they're collapsing beneath themselves. Luckily, the barrier is going to be enabling the high noon for a little bit, but it's just not enough. No. And one move off of the point is going to enable them to get the capture onto Volskaya. Jelly Peanut, my goodness, that's MVP status. Just the Torbjorn ego, and like Aurora was helping them.
Yeah, definitely. I really like that swap onto the Kree and the Torb from Hog Mafia. They realized that the Tracer Sombra wasn't working, and they went for a little bit of a bulkier, more survivable DPS duo. Obviously, both Kree and Torb have that 225 HP pool to work off of. So I didn't necessarily look at it like in the moment, but after the fact, it definitely seems like it worked because their DPS were staying alive a lot longer. They were getting more picks as a result. Right, so that was a really good adaptation midway through, and 2 minutes and 8 seconds isn't terrible. It's not, 5 minutes, because they certainly lost a lot of time on first point, but they did fully capture. So now the continuation condition is on Kryix. They have to finish the entire map, and if they want a chance to win, they have to capture it with some time on the board as well. So if they get to 0, then it's basically defend first tick of first point for 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Seeing basically the same thing that they ran on second point offense from Hog Mafia, right? And in terms of the offense, well, they have a little bit of time to swap if they see fit. But otherwise, we're seeing potentially a Risa Diva composition, which was popular for a couple of weeks. Seeing it a little bit less and less now. But who knows? It might actually work, especially with Maxwell on that Pharah poking and damage. PDK said to watch out for him. So who knows? Maybe a miracle will happen.
Yeah, Twitch chat is already so confused and mixed feelings. These are two unique teams, and their strategies are definitely adapting the more that they play. Obviously, we're not going to be seeing the Sombra out with the Wrecking Ball competition, rather that Torbjorn, but the Pharah is going to be able to play around, and eventually that Wrecking Ball is just going to be hit with so much CC. Shredder's health from one initiation immediately goes down to half, and it's hard for them to really engage just because, look at that, first take already out.
Oh, well, you know, we were hyping up Maxwell and he dies to a turret, but I guess that happens. And it looks like despite getting one tick, Kryix are just going to have to back out. At least soft disengage, right? They don't really want to take that fight without their Pharah. It's poking damage from the side, and Hog Mafia are perfectly fine wearing down that clock. Neither team has too many ultimates online, but now that you have Maxwell back, the fight's going to re-engage.
Yeah, but that window, look at that, that's going to be absolutely beautiful. It enables them to quickly break down the turret, but they're putting in so much damage to the people on high ground, they really don't have the room to poke. And yet, Jellybean survives at around 15 HP. That's a little bit impressive. The point almost going to be captured onto 2 ticks, but they're just barely going to be using that Transcendence to enable the team to move forward to try to find some value. But the Pharah basically, fundamentally, is just not going to be getting as much value, just seems not to be able to play too forward. They re-engage back into the fight, but the Mon core has been given enough time to be built. The Orisa split off budget has to walk through it, get the immortality just to walk through the floor. The Dragons perfectly placed to split them off, making sure that no one can play as a unit, especially with the Bongo. That's going to be increased damage, so Wang's going to be found out. The turret and Torbjorn just kind of stuck on the low ground, not going to be getting that peel for much, and it seems that this long drawn out fight, which looked to be a little worrying, is kind of being inside their favor. Shredder does have the mind if they choose to want to stall it, but they're not going to be able to push forward, and the rest of their team are slowly being staggered with a split respawn. As Lunacy dies onto the point, we're just going to have to see them try on the second capture.
Yeah, it's about a minute extra on the clock compared to what Hog Mafia had. So at the very least, now you have some level of snowball potential from Kryix, right? They have the Barrage, they have the Diva Bomb coming up, they have the Ant Matrix if they really want to engage. But at the same time, you kind of have to respect the ultimates that Hog Mafia have. They have the mines if they really want to stop anything mid-rotation. Although, speaking of rotation, having a little bit of a weird left side rotate from Kryix. It looks like they want to take that high ground and force the defense off there first, which, I mean, they have plenty of time. Remember, when their continuation condition is just to capture the point with any amount of time, really, so they have the ability to rotate into a position that's more favorable.
Yeah, look at that tier 3 strategy, just perfectly places down the mines. The Dragons combined with the Window and Diva Bomb have already done their job and have wasted the mines opportunity to be able to shut them down. We do see that second tick come in, and the rest of their team, they're going to be using that rally just to be able to push in. But the Rush, perfectly placed, finds out the Brigida. That's just what you needed. Lunacy not having the opportunity to live, and not even the High Noon's going to have a chance to even find value. It just seems that the rest of Hog Mafia are just going to have to go and try again, as we see them capture with 3 minutes and 26 seconds. A much better time comparably to the 2 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to afford them, what, you figure 2, maybe 3 quick extra fights on top of the 2 minutes that Hog Mafia were. Relation thing, so that we're not here for an 8-8 and there's still time on the clock. But yeah, both teams in a decent position. I really like that last play from Kryix, though, on their offense, where they pop the Baptiste amplification matrix. They throw the bomb into the little room so that Hog Mafia can't even hide anywhere, right? It's either stay in the room with the Diva Bomb, which, I mean, one of them did, and it didn't work out that well, or you rotate around into the line of sight of the Bat Matrix, which is just a stupid amount of damage all at once. That was really high-level stuff that you don't see from your standard, like, community-level tournament, right? And that's what I love about watching these Tier 3 teams duke it out. So,
Yeah,
we're
but
looking
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big concern for the side of Hog Mafia. While they are somewhat adapting around it, I just feel like Kryix have just been doing an amazing job of playing around it. So what should they do? What kind of variation should they try?
Honestly, I think Mafia, because it works so well on their first offense, stick with like the bulkier DPS, right? They already have the Kree, they have Wang Huzhang on the Widowmaker to start, but that's probably just for a quick peek. Yeah, it looks like they're going back to spawn. Back to the Tracer, which is a little bit worrying because it didn't work out too well the first time, but they do still have the Kree. At the very least, they have a little bit of chunkiness, but they do need to make sure they protect their Zenyatta at all costs. Like I said, the first time around, that's a very easy target to lose.
Yeah, Strider does try to put pressure onto the point and eventually comes back to help the team. They find the Lucio. There's going to be no disengagement. There'll just be a DMEC onto Hirsch. The monkey budget just trying to do the best that they can. Has to walk back to the Mega Health Pack, but their team is struggling to find anyone. It just seems that they've caught themselves up in a snake tail, slowly eating themselves out, and eventually that's going to be leading to the first point capture.
That was a beautiful disengage once Kryix pushed through the choke point to try and go after mainly the supports from Hog Mafia, right? They just disengaged, backed up. It forced Kryix to invest even more resources into that push, and then suddenly they were playing in the choke point instead of Hog Mafia, right? They kind of Uno reverse card them, and now they have first point with a reasonable amount of time. They have, maybe 2 fights.
Yeah, I would say so, but they kind of take long. The hack goes on to Jelly Peanut, and immediately it's just going to be melted down. They don't want that Kree being able to play in, and I feel that they're making a smart decision. They don't want to fight without 6.
Yeah, definitely, especially with all the ultimates that they're building up, especially because they currently have an ult advantage on the defense. If they act quickly and disengage and don't feed into, say, Depresso's EMP or any more of Hirsch's bomb, they could come in with a little bit of snowball potential, right? It's not as much as when they had first captured, but at the very least, now they have a little bit more because Maxwell misses the pulse bomb, the one who falls, so that's not going to be great. They really only have 1 fight remaining.
Saw my life flash before my eyes, and yet they want to try to retreat. But Ram's gonna use that coalescence, so they have to counter with the rally. But look at that, Mind's placed on the point. It's really only gonna be the Sombra and the rest of the team moving forward to try to find out Strider to stop him from even getting a tick. The Transcendence does get used, so at least they were able to live, but they're forced to go into a 5v6. They don't have any more time to regroup, and it's all up to the ult economy that they have. Even the Pulse Bomb's able to find out the Lucio, but the EMP finds out Lunacy, so that mech is going not to be able to survive for much longer. Look at that, almost had the bomb, but immediately is going to be put back into the baby form. The Wrecking Ball returning into the fight. They're able to find out budget, but they have to have someone on the point. So they're working around somewhat of an even fight. Shredder does get hacked, so he's not going to be able to play around. Already dangerous. Load's going to try to disengage from the fight. So Hirsch is just doing the best to try to be touching back and forth. They don't really have the consistency to really fight onto this point. So they're sacrificing the first tick. And before the second tick can happen, they manage to touch the point with Hirsch. They use the Sound Barrier as a good way to engage back into the fight, but the Wrecking Ball is still alive and building up. Lunacy, however, builds up that bomb's gonna plop it down. They manage to jump out of the way, but the Coalescence is gonna be enabled them walking back into the fight. Mocha's able to find out budget, so that is kind of a good pick for the side of Hog Mafia to continue walking into the fight. But look at that Transcendence. They may have lost Mocha, but they still have that ability to move forward, especially with Strider's Minds. That's gonna be allowing them to continue playing onside this point. It seems that the rest of Strider just don't have the ability, but they do have some form of contest, as Excelled is just perfectly wall riding on. Is gonna be able to boop Strider to death, and Neutral just not gonna be allowed to live. It just seems like the 2 CPs finally working on the side of Strider's favors, as those 2 ticks at 69.8 managed to get captured. That's still a sizable win condition for both of these teams to try to exploit.
Oh, absolutely. That is going to be rather defendable if you're Hog Mafia. But at the same time, there is now a win condition set. So, as well as the fact that Kryix have the time bank advantage, they had about a minute and a half extra on top of the 2 minutes that Hog Mafia had, right? So they're going to have a lot more opportunities to push in to first point as long as they capture that. They just really need to have better target focus when going into second point, because quite frankly, right up until the end there, when the respawn advantage from the defense, or getting 2 CP'd rather, started to favor Kryix too much, Hog Mafia's target focus was spectacular. Really, really good. And that's how they managed to get as far as they did. Like I said, this is going to be really defendable from them. It doesn't look like any real changes from these teams, not counting the Maxwell Soldier currently that he's teasing, but he's in spawn still, so he can meme it up a bit if he wants. I don't necessarily know what the Soldier would be good for here. I am a little bit concerned to see the Tracer Sombra DPS duo back on the side of Hog Mafia, just because it didn't work really well the first time. But they certainly have adapted since then, so maybe they'll be able to make something of it this time and force the clock down a lot further.
Yeah, they do decide to run out with the legs, which I mean, hey, good leg work. Cardio is very important, especially for gamers, but I don't know how well it'll be able to put pressure onto Jelly Peanut and especially to the Tracer, who have been playing very consistently so far, but it looks like they want to be able to gain the room of the Mega Health Pack to play around.
Definitely. Oh dear, Maxwell's getting entirely caught out. Yeah, that
Hey.
didn't really work out that well.
Yeah, look on the right side. They managed to find out Jelly Peanut, which is the kind of person they want. But Neutral finds out Depresso Espresso. And gonna be having to go back to Starbucks just to be able to get a second tea of that. They are trying to play onto the point, maybe get a dig, but Lunacy's not really losing any health. So they just say, hey, disengage Maxwell. Tracer, now.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what the Soldier was accomplishing there. I think the Sombra, or the Tracer at the very least, is going to give a little bit more, but they gotta back up even further. They gotta full disengage right now because they're losing too many people, and while they have time, they don't want to waste any of it. Oh, Maxwell falling off the point as well, so they're going to be waiting until about what 2:10 ish before they have everyone back. As well as the fact that Neutral already has the Transcendence, and Kryix aren't running a Zenyatta, so they have a distinct advantage there, where basically everyone's going to be immortal for a brief period on Hog Mafia, which is not going to make it easy to take this first point.
Yeah, that'll be a continuing issue, especially with Neutral having that Transcendence. Look at that. They managed to make a beautiful dive, but the Trans is going to enable them to stay alive. Mocha's going to be able to find out the Lucio, and the D-Mech onto Hersha means that they don't continue fighting this point at all. Budget may be using that Primal Rage just to be able to survive, and Ram uses the Coalescence. It seems that they want to try to win it. Being able to get the pick onto Neutral and Mocha do put this somewhat in their favor, especially with the respawns, but their entire team was just dead afterwards.
Yeah, unless they're going to be swapping off the Moira. No, they're not. Doesn't look like it, so I'm not sure about that Coalescence, right? You'd already lost like 2 or 3 people. You hadn't really forced that much out of Hog Mafia outside of just the support ultimates. But I mean, they still have so much to work with. I'm keeping an eye on Jelly Peanut's EMP as well, because that is one of those ultimates that's almost a fight winner by itself, right? So that can just be absolutely devastating, and we're into like 2-fight territory now.
That EMP was somewhat really big because they managed to find out, wait, no, it actually wasn't. Wrong EMP. I am blind sometimes. But Strider gets picked out. They do get the rematch, so there is room to recontest this fight, but they want to wait for Strider. But 2 ticks have been sacrificed in the meantime. Mocha's also getting pressured out, same with Neutral as the hack goes on to the Diva. But they come back. They've lost their Zenyatta. This is their opportunity to try to win it, but the Sound Barrier is going to be allowing them to survive for much longer. A beautiful hack stops Lunacy from being able to use their bomb and eventually slowly start staggering the rest of Hog Mafia, so they still have maybe 1 to 2 more fights when it comes to the second point.
Crucially as well, they really only used the beat, even though Budget falls there at the very end. It doesn't really matter, he's going to come back almost immediately. And now, you're looking at Kryix, well, they only have about 1 good fight remaining. They have EMP, they're going to have Coalescence, they have Pulse Bomb, they have basically they have every ultimate outside of beat. Right? And that's not the worst ultimate to be lacking in this case. EMP by itself is going to open things up immensely. Although Jelly Peanut's building up to their own EMP, so that could be the counterplay here, honestly, if you're Hog Mafia. That's probably going to be the win condition.
I think the first one to engage will be truly the winner of this fight. We see them preparing. The Coalescent gets used. The EMP managing to only find out the Lucio, but they counter with, and they use it to be able to find out Neutral, but no one else is really pressured. They are still getting some value as the bomb is do get Maxwell on there, and they have the advantage. It's all up to Lunacy just to survive for that little tiny bit longer, especially with Wang still alive. Now they're going to be having to sacrifice some ticks just to be able to touch this point. Luckily, Neutral does have the Transcendence, and so they need someone to touch. They use the Trans just to be able to move back in, and Strider builds up a mind so quick to force onto Budget. So much damage, and they need someone to keep touching that point, but it's such a deadly area. We see them losing people as the rest of their team only Hirsch is going to be alive, just trying to touch to give them a couple seconds. But this is 2CP, folks. You've lost your chance. You've lost your opportunities. And Hog Mafia defying the odds and managing to bring it back, winning off the first map of Vizcaya.
That was insanely close. Like, that came down to what felt like 10%, right? In overtime pushes. Neutral with play of the game here. I think I know what it is. Oh, no, it's actually not. I thought it was previous round.
Oh, Neutral's built different. But, man, I'd have to say, so far it's been an impressive showing of both teams. They both really just kind of want to try to bring it out and make some form of a victory happen. But honestly, I don't really know what the small chances were that kind of gave Hog Mafia the advantage in that. Maybe it was respawns and kind of the ability to play that Wrecking Ball comp.
It definitely started with that Transcendence to re-engage the final fight there, right? Because you saw that Kryix knew they had to disengage. They can't fight into that because they don't have an Ana, they don't have a Zenyatta of their own, so they can't deny the Transcendence healing, and they can't match it either. So they have to disengage, and that led the front line, mostly budget in that case, vulnerable. Right, so that Strider took that opportunity to use the minefield so that they couldn't re-engage easily. Budget, of course, had to touch, and 2 mines hit him. That's about half of Winston's HP then gone, as well as, I believe it was Jelly Peanut who came back on the Doomfist and was just doing a stupid amount of damage. Like, all the focus fire was onto Budget at that point, who was like 100 HP on Winston, which is effectively nothing. So then, by that point, Kryix are using all of their resources just to keep Budget alive, so that when the fight sort of stabilizes in a sense, it's very much in Hog Mafia's favor, not just because of the ultimate advantage, as well as the spawn advantage, but because of the resource advantage, right? Kryix had used everything in the tank, and there was just nothing left, and they still weren't quite there.
Yeah, and I feel coming in, it's going to be a lot of differences. So for the people who are just tuning in or trying to understand how things work, we have map bans, interestingly enough. The first map going to be banned is Blizzard World, meaning that we will not be playing it at all for the rest of this series, which is pretty much of a bonus. I think that's kind of something that Hog Mafia don't really want to try to play on. I think it just doesn't enable the Wrecking Ball for too long. However, we said that about Vizcaya, so, you know, who knows?
They could probably get away with it, but I'm sure they'd love to play on really any kind of map that actually enables or is capable of being of playing the Wrecking Ball, at least in an easy sense, right? So yeah, we're not going to see Blizzard World at all through this series, and it looks like Lijiang Tower is going to be the map pick. Right? Or hold on.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah,
100% right.
Yep.
And Lijiang Tower, I love Lijiang Tower. It's one of those maps it's similar to King's Row, where a lot of teams play it, a lot of teams practice it, but for some reason, it's not really boring, and I think that's just because of some Metra.
Yeah, she gets played on at the very least 2 rounds, if not all 3. So I'd be shocked to see anything other than that for Control Center as well as Night Market. You can see it on Gardens, but it really depends on what these teams like to play. I could definitely see Hog Mafia opting to not play it on Gardens. But it really depends on the round that we're going to be playing, right? Because each round has its own unique style. Looks like we're going to be starting on Night Market, so honestly expect a lot of Symmetra, and then the other DPS can be almost anything. The tanks, traditionally going to be Brawl, but I've seen everything from Orisa to a little bit of Wrecking Ball as well. Teams more recently have been liking the Wrecking Ball comps to fight out in the little courtyard. And speaking of the teams fighting out, right, keep in mind that the MVP poll is still going, so if you saw anyone in particular pop off in that previous map, you want to see them interviewed at the end of this series, regardless of whether their team wins or loses, feel free to cast your vote down below.
Yeah, honestly, so far, I really don't know who to say kind of been popping off. I would say Strider, at least for me. Gonna blow you a little kiss, mwah, but Mocha, oh, Mocha, you are still my love from the first game. However, being on here, there's only one strategy with the Symmetra. The other side's running out with Pure Dive.
Yeah, this is very much like the 6-man rush style, right? Except without the Sombra Maxwell's on that Tracer. But it's a pretty easy substitution. You just have a little bit less utility in that regard, but a little bit more damage is the trade-off. Whereas Hog Mafia sticking with the Wrecking Ball comp. Like I said, it's been more popular on this round. So gonna be interesting to see how Kryix decides to engage onto this point. Okay, they just walk on. I was expecting something flashier.
Nope, it's a simple old bread and butter. We see the support line
Oh.
stuck on the edge, and eventually Narwhal's gonna be able to boot neutral. This just allows them to push forward. There's no Discord or anything stopping them, and this is where the Wrecking Ball composition slowly collapse as we see them capture the rest of the point.
And Norwal, more boops for the boop god, as it were. But yeah, that was really awkward from Hog Mafia. They went over to the point, they rotated, but they kind of stayed on like the coast side at the very edge. They weren't officially on the point, if you know what I mean. So while you do have Strider kind of rotated around, ready to touch as his team is ready, they weren't really in a good position, but now they are, as Norwal's back in spawn.
Yeah, look at that. They're going to be forcing Narwhal to be back in spawn. And you kind of need the Lucio there because eventually that's going to lead to Ram not having the speed boost to move around and the rest of the team just being pressured out by Wang. And that's pretty much a really good recontest to get that point.
That was a beautiful pick from, I believe it was Moko with a whip shot to take down Norwal at the very beginning of that fight. And it's so difficult to play this 6-man without your main support. Picks up this entire composition from Kryix, so that was basically a lost fight from the beginning. But they are back rather quickly, and they have the coalescence, which, yeah, I'm expecting to see right away.
Now look at this, they're moving in. That pole spawn from Maxwell is going to be eaten, so this is in favor of them as we see neutral do get booped off the map, but the Mines and Mon Core, they're really just being out ignored. Amazing rotations coming outside as we see Maxwell just cleaning up the rest of the dirty meals that are the Hog Mafia. May have almost fell off the point, but still, it's just really a contest and there's not much of it.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the challenges with these Wrecking Ball compositions. They were originally made to stop the more Reinhardt brawl style comps, right? So it's very difficult when you're facing something like this 6-man where almost every single hero on Kryix is very mobile. Oh, dude, they're still going in.
Oh my goodness, they're not done yet. Lunacy gets hit by that bomb, but still has their mech, so they use the trans as a way to get out of it and kind of reconvene. The point still is kind of uncontested. It was a little bit hit, but there's still not much to worry about.
Yeah, Strider's putting some pressure onto the point, but it's not really enough to stop Kryix from actually winning these engagements.
My goodness, Mocha saw the dive coming in, uses the rally, the Diva Bomb, the Death Blossom, the bomb stuck in there. It is going to get Depresso, but the 2K is well more than enough to shut down this fight.
I don't know what it is, but watching a Reaper Death Blossom into a Diva Bomb where he just has to stand there and watch his own death, something about it just makes me chuckle. But either way, I mean, Depresso still gets the last laugh because 2 kills to his own death. Oh dear, but it looks like Hog Mafia are getting a little bit split here. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to take a clean engagement, but they have to. This is final fight.
Yeah, look at that. They're struggling just to be able to kind of play together as they look to fight on point. They do manage to find out neutral, and those Mines are doing an amazing job of stopping them to be able to play, but Budget's returned from using Primo and is going to be stopping anyone from entering in. So while Strider may have split them off, there's not much, but the EMP is placed perfectly, able to find out 4, and that's just what they needed. However, Maxwell says no, but Wang says yes, able to use that pulse spawn to put it in their favor and recapture that point. The Reaper may be disengaged because, well, it's not their fight anymore.
That got really sloppy towards the end there from both teams, but Hog Mafia definitely thrived in the chaos, especially building up a lot of their ultimates that they're going to now be able to use and cycle through to defend this point as much as possible, right? You already have the hack onto Budget. They just disengage. They don't want none of that. Get out of here, Hacker Lady. And yeah, Kryix is just getting ready. They're in a staging phase of their dive. They're waiting to find a target, a cooldown that creates an opening, right? You have a little bit of a dive onto Jelly Peanut. They're hunting the Sombra down.
Oh,
dear.
That's so mean. You look at that. You sacrificed Maxwell. Both of these players are going to be coming back extraordinarily fast. So it's not much of a difference. Still, it's a 5v6. That bomb being thrown in by Hirsch, it may be kind of using that rally from Mocha so they could try to find some room to play in. But look at that pressure coming in, especially with the Death Blossom being able to find out neutral. And Mocha, the bomb is just not going to be able to kill. But the remake manages to find out Narwhal, the pressure being in. It's still a 99 to 99, but there is no spawn advantage for the side of Hog Mafia. Lunacy may be able to play on that point, just moving around, waiting for their team to come back just as Strider, but they don't really have room to recontest or a way to kind of beat it, especially with Maxwell's Pulse Bomb. We see them moving in, just looking for their best. Lunacy gone. The Wrecking Ball has to be the one to continuously touch, but eventually they're picked off. A 6-man EMP may be there, but there is no follow-up. That's crushing to the heart. Every Sombra prays for it, and while Wang tried to do their best to make it up, it just seems the Kyrex are just going to be able to clean up the rest of the fight.
No, yeah, that was just too much target focus. Hog Mafia didn't have enough resources, similar to the very final fight on Volskaya in a way, except reversed. I would like to point out as well that you'll notice Neutral technically has the most deaths on the board right now. At least 2 of those have been environmentals, and I think it's 3, but I lost track at a certain point, right? He was getting bullied every time Budget had Primal Rage. Like, he was not allowed to go within a country mile of the coast side of the map because he was being sent down to the streets below. So that's definitely something that Hog Mafia as a whole are going to have to be conscientious of, because same thing on Volskaya, right? You have to protect your Zenyatta. He is absolutely crucial in these compositions, especially because Kryix are just running it down main with the exact same comp that they won the last round with.
We see them already walking onto the bridge. The dive is doing a good job from not allowing them to move in, which is why you see Strider going on for the flank, being able to boot them, get some good ult charge, but they really don't have the opportunity to move in until that point unlocks where everyone's stuck in this very spin-to-win scenario.
Yeah, pretty much gonna be waiting for that final contest. Yeah, and it's like...
It's slowly, we see it happening as they move in. The monkey is not going to be able to pop that bubble fast enough to be able to save out Narwhal. The rest of their team are looking to go after Neutral and Mocha, but they get that peel. Coalescence built up much faster than I truly expected, as Suppresso's being able to push out the supports. Bram may be gone, but the Pulse Bomb was eaten, so that long fight really just helped out them in the end.
Presso had 10 HP there at the very end. I'm sure all of you were wondering how he was still alive with nothing showing in the health bar. Proceeded to get 3 kills with 10 HP. So, I mean, looking at it now, both teams are relatively even in terms of resources, right? However, there is a slight opening because Depresso's still not fully healed up. It looks like Strider wants to go in and look for a minefield. Jelly Peanut also looks to be staging for some sort of EMP in the backline. Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. I respect the grind, and that grind has enabled a 3-man EMP, especially that, once again, Maxwell is going to be getting their Pulse Bomb eaten, and the rest of Hog Mafia are going to be able to play on this point. The mines get used not on the point, but rather for anyone trying to move in. While the rally is allowing them to put pressure onto the Presso and make him walk into the mine, it's a bit unfortunate. This capture is going to go right over to Hog Mafia. But the recontest, wait, they still want to try to get this time bank a little higher. We see Ram get booked into the mines, and that just stops it. So mean.
Yeah, they wanted to stall for a bit longer, but the minefield took a bit too long to dissipate. So, I mean, now you have Hog Mafia with a reasonably sized advantage in terms of ultimates that they want to hold the point onto, right? The second that Kryix want to push in, Lunacy can probably just toss in the bomb, especially considering they're going through White Room over... opposite the coast side, right? That's going to be a very nice place to toss in the deep bomb. Actually, no, there's a bit of a re-rotation, I guess. They're going over the bridge now.
Yeah, look at this. The bomb being used from Hirsch as a way to engage. It manages to force out Lunacy's bomb, which isn't in the most optimal spot. So Narwhal wants to be able to use that sound barrier to move forward while the trance is in an equal space. It's an awkward trance on the point, but the Death Blossom manages to get blocked out. It gets CC'd. Mocha's going to be punishing with their life. And a complete EMP is going to manage to start finding out the rest of their team, especially with the mines on the point. They don't have the opportunity to play in a specific area. Hog Mafia being able to adapt and get a really good comeback so far as they're slowly getting off the staggers on the point.
I was questioning that EMP at first, but I think it worked out in the end for Jelly Peanut, right? I mean, I could even force Depresso over to the Sombra as well. And it really just allowed for a stabilization. I didn't quite see it at the time, but a lot of the supports and other players on the side of Kryix were a lot lower than anyone really anticipated. It's really good stuff.
Ay, 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 Strider just gets hacked and shut down, pulse bombs out, pushes them back. Without Strider, they don't have anyone to contest the point. Budget, I'm sorry, just gets booped off the map by Lunacy. I guess you really don't need the Wrecking Ball to have that CC around. So the point does go back over to the opposite team as they're looking to just use that Coalescence to kind of end this fight quickly. They find out Wang, eventually the support line, and that worked out in their favor.
Really quick retake despite Budget falling off the edge there. As well as the fact that Budget's building up to his own Primal Rage, right? So you're looking at this, and both teams are building up to a decent amount of ultimates, but it looks to me like Kryix are going to be able to stall out for a little bit longer, right? The Primal Rage in particular is a massive stall tool. They're going to have the bomb, they're going to have the EMP, although Jelly Peanut also has his already, so if they want to engage quickly, I'd expect that to come out rather soon, if not a Pulse Bomb from Wang. But we're going to have to wait and see. It looks like there's a lot of different stagings happening right now from Hog Mafia. It depends on what they want to pull the trigger with.
Yeah, it's interesting how to see these teams preparing. They do allow the time bank to move into an any percent before the fight really starts, but Kryix really don't have anything to worry about. They have that EMP set, and they're going to pop it out early, managing to find out neutral support line and the Sombra, who immediately gets pressured. The bomb doesn't go too far away, but neutral is able to get Maxwell. They need to touch this point. We see Lunacy just being able with Strider. The Transcendence is given enough time, and the Pulse Bomb is almost going to be able to hit Hirsch, but they're going to be able to escape. Ram's gone from this fight, so they're going to be having less healing, but it's now divined onto the point. Budget gets picked off. They don't have the monkey to be able to recontest, and while it does switches, this fight's long from over as they immediately are going to be trying to jump back on. We see Narwhal get off and Maxwell doing their best just to be able to play on the point, but there's not much you could do. We see the rest of their team, they already used up the entirety of Alter Alt Economy, and Neutral's going to be able to find out the press of the EMP, managing to find out Hirsch while the Discord is on Maxwell, so they really don't have room to be playing onside this point, but yet Budget's going to be the one picked off. Slow staggers all being found out as the rest of their team just don't have room. Sure, the respawns are coming in, but they may only find Neutral in this fight. The Lucio Narwhal is doing his best, spinning around, looking to just survive for as long as possible, but not only is he just being focus fired on, he is not going to be able to recontest, nor is the Sombra. Depresso gets off for a time, and look at that, 1-1 already.
We're going to Control Center. I have no idea what these teams are going to want to play here. Because neither of them have really shown any form of brawl as of yet. I think the closest thing is really the rush composition from Kryix, but that's a completely different story from like a traditional Reinhardt brawl, which we're now seeing at the very least Kryix swap over to, right? It's basically the same composition, just a Reinhardt instead of a Winston for the time being at the very least. Actually, Hog Mafia looks like they're going to be going over to the Reinhardt comp as well. So this is entirely different from anything they've shown us thus far. So I'm very curious to see what happens here.
Twitch chat pointed it out, but I just kind of want to say it because it's really funny still. Hog Mafia is still refusing to play out a Roadhog, going in rather with the traditional brawl when it comes to this point. They are able to absorb a lot of that damage, but Strider eventually is going to be put down. They do trade in with Budget, so we're back into a neutral zone to where anyone can try to contest the point. However, we do see Kryix being able to play on this point faster with that Torbjorn, which the turret is eventually going to be found out. But look at this, they're reconvening both of the Reinhardts and now going in. It's a 6v6. Whoever gets the first pick gets the advantage inside this area. We see them already putting pressure onto Strider's shield, but no one's really able to kind of find a central person to get. Budget really only survives, but is stuck by the trap, and eventually the window's built from neutral, and that's pretty much putting them into favor. They may have lost it, but look at that. Budget's gone. There's no one stopping the Reinhardt from being able to start walking inside the rest of their team, and as we see, they just don't have the room to survive anymore.
High noon? What? Hello? There's no way they can bring this back, right?
Well, it's possible. They managed to start getting these stagger picks. Budget is back, and he's going to continue walking onto the point. And the only person there left is Mocha. We see Neutral returning back in, but there's only 3 people. They invest in sound barrier to keep fighting. Look at these people with the egos, man. They're continuing to move forward. Budget is looking the best. The Molten Core is going to be used to stop them from moving in, but the Riptire's looking to pick somebody off. It's going to be broken, just not room for it, as the rest of Hog Mafia are slowly dying. Finally, deciding to retreat from this fight, and my goodness, I did not expect that many ultimates to be used in this.
We're only like 30% total from both sides into this control point, right? They've already invested like what, 1-2 ultimates each? That's utterly ridiculous, and I'm loving the confidence from these teams. The fact that they absolutely know that they can win if they just invest these ultimates. They're still going. They literally soft disengage. They're pushing into the enemy's spawn.
No way, no! They've managed to get out neutral with the Diva Bomb, and they're still putting pressure. Look at this. Lunacy's just barely gonna be able to make it back, and they don't have room to touch. They need to wait for their bat to come back.
They're at each other's throats 24/7. Like, even the defense isn't allowed to breathe with that shatter.
Oh, it's absolutely massive. The sound barrier does save them for a tiny bit, but Wang's using that high noon. Window on the opposite side does look to capture all corners, but the rest of them are just going to disengage. They're going to play on the point, so we're going to be seeing Hog Mafia. This is their opportunity to run back on and try to be the favorites of this team. However, look at this budget inside the backline. They don't realize does have the opportunity to pop that shatter, but the rest of their team is slowly dying off, especially with Ram not there. They're making the smart decision to just give up. They contested for a little, but it's over now.
Yeah, as funny as it would be and as unscripted as it would seem for Budget to just pop the shatter then and there by himself, I feel like it's the smarter play to just slow down a little bit, right? You have a decent control percent advantage right now. So they have the opportunity, especially because Strider's nowhere near his own shatter. Budget's going to have plenty of time to look for that.
Yeah, look, the high noon is going to come out first with the speed boost, but both molten cores are equally splitting up both sides. Budget's gonna go down first, and with the bomb high in the air, they have to split up. Strider does get traded, but we see Wang being able to even things up. The molten core lasting for a little bit longer doesn't allow them to retreat, and the rest of the side of Hog Mafia seem to just have the advantage to be able to get these picks.
Yeah, definitely. You saw both molten cores there, but I felt like Jelly Peanuts was spread out a little bit better, even to the point where like it was placed in positions that Kryix wanted to disengage to, which is exactly how you're supposed to use that ultimate, right? It's genuinely a zoning ult, so a really great job from Jelly Peanut and Hog Mafia there for the great target focus, the great pressure.
Yeah, look at that, the high noon being used, and combined with the Cyber Bug, Budget gets a massive shatter they can't follow up on. However, we see Strider going inside the backline, being able to find out the press, so they're now all stuck over the edge. Not really being able to find anyone out aside from neutral, as we see the rest of their team on the side of Hog Mafia just split too far. They get no healing, and now they're slowly dying. This is at 99%, so they don't want to invest, and they're just going to give it up. Very simple.
Yeah, if you're a Hog Mafia, you still have 2 clean fights right now to retake point, and you're coming up on a few ultimates, right? In particular, you're going to have the Torb ultimate, you're going to have Coalescence, you're going to have the Diva Bomb, and then the other 3 can build up over time if they really need to mid-fight, right? So you just want to take, like, if absolutely necessary, a dry fight, and just take it nice and slow, play to your advantages, force mistakes out of Kryix.
Yep, we see that bomb come out to place, split up their attention. Budget is able to find out Mojo, but the molten core is placed inside this room. However, it looks like Jelly Peanut is going to be shut down before they can get any more value off of it. The window placed sideways may not be too great, but look at that bomb. It's in an uncomfortable position. It's easily going to be shielded, but the shatter managing to find Budget. The charge does miss, so Strider gets punished for it, and the rest of their team is not available there. And eventually that death bomb is going to help clean up the fight. Sure, there's just a Metro trying to help walk back onto the point, but we see a swap as Kryix bring it back, and they're going to be able to capture Lijiang Tower.
Evening up the series 1-1. I have no idea who's going to get play of the game, but I have a feeling. Okay, I was going to say it was going to be a main support because both of them got some boops here and there, but Wang getting it somewhere along the lines here. This was about halfway through that last round.
Yeah, and I think this is just kind of a situation to where we saw Hog Mafia not too comfortable in this competition. I feel like they made some small mistakes, which got punished very easily.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're obviously great players, and they played really well, mechanically speaking, but like you said, they didn't look as comfortable on the Reinhardt comp. They weren't playing to their win conditions and forcing mistakes as much as Kryix was to them. So that tells me, right, that Kryix, as we already knew, is going to be, in general, the more comfortable team on like a wider variety of compositions, right? Hog Mafia has been known for the wrecking ball compositions. That's what everyone's expecting out of them, aside from maps where you really just have to play the Reinhardt or something like a dive, right?
Yeah, especially with the ideas of the next map. But before I go on to that, I kind of just want to point out this is a first to three, so this can go on to a map 5. But it's completely impressive how these teams are pretty much neck and neck. They're like two vicious dogs or chickens in a ring, just nibbling at each other, trying to get some form of advantage. And that's kind of what you need, especially for a tier 3 team when you want to try to go somewhere in the future. The first map going to be banned. I mean, the next map being banned is going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar, and that's going to hurt Hog Mafia, so it seems we're going straight over to Eichenwald instead.
Yeah, looks like, just like Intel said, just checking match chat, a little bit of mind games going on in there. They said, let's go to Jib, and that proceeds to be the very next thing that's banned, just as they planned, quote unquote. So, Eichenwald, interesting pick, but in all honesty, I think it fits very well for Hog Mafia's style, right? Because they wouldn't necessarily want to play something like King's Row because, while the Wrecking Ball can work there, it's very claustrophobic at times, especially towards the beginning of, say, the street space, towards second point, or towards like the beginning of third point even, right? So they want to play something like Eichenwald where they can they have a lot more space to work with, first point especially, second point towards the end, and then third point they might have to swap it off, but if they get that far, they're doing pretty good, right?
I do think so. I mean, Eichenwald does enable to play out Dave, if you know who Dave is.
Dare I
Yes.
ask? I'm a boomer here, please.
It's the new name for the cowboy, just Dave. Twitch chat's been pointing it out.
Yes,
Yeah, I just
saw
realized
that.
Twitch chat's been pointing it out, and so far they look to be interested into the Kryix team. I wonder if they're winning in the MVP votes that are in the bio of the Twitch channel right now. By the way, if you haven't, you can follow, sub, do whatever you want. We thank you so much. But look at this, Eichenwald is the map we're gonna be on.
Yep, definitely. We're gonna have Hog Mafia on the offense once more.
But this,
And,
I'm worried about how they're going to be running the Wrecking Ball. I mean, I saw them play it last time, and they look pretty good on it, but they're going on to the attacking side and into this Orisa with the Diva. How does that work, really?
assuming they're not memeing right now with this composition and spawn, which they very well could be, because they have another 30 seconds before even the stream sees it. When the gates open, but right now they're teasing the Wrecking Ball Roadhog, right? Don't know if they're going to stick on it. But my guess is they would just have to focus down the shield nonstop. And then you'd have Lunacy, who's currently on the Wrecking Ball, rotate around, try and displace people in front of the Orisa shield. And then you have the likes of Jellypina and Wang who go around and punish anyone who's displaced. It looks like they're going to be swapping off of the Roadhog at the very least. A little bit of fan service, I guess, for the name, but they will be playing basically the same thing we've been seeing, except with the Fire Mercy this time around.
Yeah, they'll be able to play in, and as Twitch chat's telling me to, I will not open a loot box. I don't have any loot box to open. But we see the Far being able to play in and put a lot of pressure in. There is no double shield, so it's all about eating the bullets and then using budget shield and rotation as a way to play in. So they're really just looking for Strider to make that first engagement and then try to get value off of that.
Yeah, definitely. Having a little bit of a rotation from the Far, and not really finding too much right now, but they have time. They can play it slow, wait for a good opportunity, a good pick. Lamp from Rams come out like that, and now they push up.
They find out Budget was split from the team in that slam, just managed to find that out. But Rams, the hit CN on the team, gonna be able to find out Jelly Peanut, yet Strider's going to find out Hirsch. Still somewhat of an even fight until that Transcendence pops out, just so that they have the healing to move forward. They're not scared of anything. They're finding their rotations. They're being able to play. They force Budget just to be able to go on to the Wrecking Ball to have that stall. But look at that. A tick's gone. They don't have the room to recontest. This isn't Li Jiang Tower. And yet Hirsch still wants to touch and say, hey guys, my mech's just a bit of ult charge, and Budget coming back in for the opposite slam while Narwhal's wanting that recontest. I guess the fight's not over till it's over, even when the majority of your team is picked off and you've lost the point.
Yeah, well, you'll see that a lot more at this higher level of play, right? It really starts in Tier 3, where you have a lot of these teams just trying to wear down the clock as much as possible. Now you do have Kryix just backing up. They're not giving any opportunities for any boops or whatever, but Strider's certainly looking for one, right? Gonna get scouted out by the Torb turret of all things, has to run back to the rest of the team. But rather early engagement here from the defense.
It's able to find a Strider, but the barrage is much bigger in value as they manage to find 2 with it, and then eventually Ram. So they can really push this payload for as far as they want. Even if Lunacy goes down, the Divas need match. They don't have room to play anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, it's gonna be on someone from Kryix to deal with this far, because it doesn't feel like Jelly Peanut's really been pressured out that much. They've taken poke damage here and there, they've had to reposition, but that's entirely different than like killing the Pharah and forcing her to play differently and more scared. Now we have Maxwell on the Echo, that's probably going to be their answer now that Depresso's not on the McCree anymore. So there is going to be a little bit more pressure in that regard.
Echo is one of those interesting picks because they're a bit more better in mobility, but we see Depresso being the one to actually fight Jelly Peanut. The supports on the side of Hog Mafia are eventually going to go down, but the payload is still being moved. But the rally on the side of Narwhal allows them to continue moving forward. And look at that, they use that Transcendence to try to make something happen inside this small choke, where it's really only affecting Lunacy. The mines are built, but that bomb from Hirsch is stuck inside there and is going to eventually pick off Strider. Neutral still wanting to win this, manages to find out the Presso, but that bomb, it's just not enough to bring it back.
No, yeah, I don't know about that Transcendence. I think that was a little bit too much into the hashtag winnable mindset, right? Because now you have a lot of Hog Mafia getting staggered out. They are coming back, and they don't want to give up this fight quite yet. It's still very much going on, but it's so incredibly discombobulated in a sense that it doesn't really feel like anyone's winning or losing right now.
Yeah, it's still somewhat of a slow kind of tango while we wait for the rest of Hog Mafia, because they're now going to switch over to the Echo and kind of recontest on each other. But it's not in favor of Hog Mafia anymore. I feel like having that, having the mines on their side is better because they can set up first. Look at that, they're already somewhat fighting Strider, but they just forced them out.
Yeah, they just forced him to rotate around because he didn't get picked off. That's going to be a lot of ult charge given to neutral. You do have a really aggressive push here from Jelly Peanut, but they pay for it with their life, and that's not going to be very good because that's a huge amount of damage now gone for Hog Mafia, but they're still going.
Yeah, look at that, they managed to find out neutral. The mines are in a very good spot. The Brig can't come in to help, but nobody's really going to start walking into it. They've lost Lunacy. They are not at an advantage anymore, especially with that Valk. They want to try to get value off of the ultimate, but they're stuck back into this neutral fight where no one can really move into each other anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. However, Kryix has built up a decent amount of ultimates. In particular, I'm looking at the duplicate from Maxwell, so I'm expecting that to come out, and I'm not expecting Hog Mafia to really have a clean fight if they happen to win this one, right? Unless they find like a really early pick, someone completely out of position.
Yeah, we already see them getting set up as Budget's the one who's kind of going to be the initiator, especially with the fact that Hirsch built up their bomb. They have a good combo inside this small room. Using it, they're not going to be allowing them to leave the entire spot, and their supports are just stuck. The copy comes in, they force the Transcendence out, but there's really no type of advantage moving in. That bomb combined, double bomb actually combined out, managed to find out Mocha, but Depresso's gone, still somewhat in even scenario, but they really don't have the room. Hog Mafia is struggling to really find these picks, only having the opportunities to trade. The Brig is going to try to contest that point, but with the Tracer and Wrecking Ball there, and the Mines, they managed to bring it back just barely, but the respawns are not in their favor, as it's going to take longer for them to regroup as a team, comparably to Kryix, as we see them. The Wrecking Ball is already back, the Echo's there with the beam, they do have the bomb, and the Diva's back to be able to help out as the Pulse Bomb stops the Echo from moving in, but Budget's going down dangerously low, is struggling to stay alive with a good amount of health. The Valk gets used just to enable them to move forward as Jelly Peanut's on the Widow, but Neutral's going to be able to find out Maxwell, looking to build up those mines, but not being able to really get too much poke. The Brig's the one who has to touch. They do get Jelly Peanut, but Narwhal's going to go down. They're forced to stay on this point, hugging it as much as they can, as we see the bomb being used to force them placed on top, is able to find out Ram. Budget's gone. The Diva just gets hit by the mech. It's not going to have theirs anymore, as Depresso's being able to be the last one alive. There's just nothing else, because Jelly Peanut is in the backline on the Widowmaker.
He even died to Depresso at one point, and then got rezzed up, and they really made use of that secondary life, because they ended up getting, like, what, 4 picks in that last fight? That was looking really dicey if that Widowmaker didn't pay dividends, right? So now you're coming into this next fight. you only have maybe 2 more engagements for Hog Mafia, and this is going to be a really tough point to capture all the way. You have a little bit of a scuffle in the backline with Depresso versus Wong and Strider, but nothing really comes of it. So now the card's going to stop right around here, as you'd expect, and you got to wait for someone to invest some kind of ultimate.
Strider uses that mines to split them up, but Budget is the stream's fan favorite, so seeing him move forward to fight against that Transcendence and force it out, they enable Hirsch to be able to eat those mines, use their rally, and push forward. They're just ignoring the mines being on the point. They're going for the backline, and the rest of the side of Hog Mafia being able to find a Jelly Peanut is absolutely crucial, especially in a 30-second time bank.
Yeah, like I said, they really only had 2 fights now, really just 1 fight, and if they get any more staggers, especially with this high noon, they probably won't get another clean fight. They want these picks. This is absolutely incredible.
No,
the amount of aggression.
I mean, the res comes out, so they're going to be able to kind of recontest
But they don't have that res for the next fight.
Oh, you're right! How could I forget such a big ability they aren't able to use? Ram still has the window. That's the big ability that's going to be allowing them to move forward. Sure, Maxwell's being pressured and Strider's there, but the Dragons are forced to mech up. Budget's gonna be found out no longer on the high ground as Ram's being able to trade in to get Jelly Peanut, but Maxwell, the rest of their team, Striders are struggling just to be able to move forward. Hog Mafia, they win it. It seems to forcing them to use those ults. They got a little too happy, a little too Mimi.
Absolutely. However, they still have another chance. Like, they're not going to push this card all the way to the very end without another good fight from Kryix. So this is gonna get a little bit dicey. You see them swapping over to more stall-esque picks. Budget has that Shatter. Depresso already looking for something with the Pulse Bomb. Doesn't seem to find it, though.
Yeah, look at that. The Shatter comes out, but the mines are there. They do manage to stun, but the bomb is in such a good spot. It's able to find out Depresso and eventually helps to put damage into Budget. They try to do as much as they can to help in the team, but the rest of Kryix are struggling to stay alive. The mines have done an amazing job of putting in those small bits of damage, and while the Maxwell immediately gets pushed out, gives Narwhal a tiny bit of time to live, but look at that. They capture in overtime.
Yep, so there, of course, once again, is a continuation condition, much like on Volskaya. And if you want to see Kryix potentially win, they have to capture all 3 points. Thankfully, they don't have to worry about capturing it with time or without time, right? They can capture it in overtime and still be on the same ground as Hog Mafia, but of course, they're going to want to try and get as much time as possible on the board, because if they can get above a minute, then it's a draw or win scenario for Kryix, right? So that would be the most ideal situation, but the way that these teams have been playing each other so close, I get the feeling if they get that far, it's going to be in overtime. So we might extra rounds as long as Kryix has what it takes to push it to the very end here.
As what it takes is not a question. They're still fighting neck and neck. This is so entertaining to be able to watching, as Twitch chat's pointing out. And honestly, I think it's just for how unconventional, and yet both of these teams are still working well against each other. Having this pure dive against the Wrecking Ball composition may do well, but I'm more worried of the fact that they're using the Echo to try to fight up Jelly Peanut, and I feel like Jelly Peanut has more room to play, so it might make more sense to why they're going over to Sombra.
Yeah, they're swapping back and forth between the Sombra and the Echo, kind of deciding what they want to do. Depresso actually teasing the Reaper as well. Not sure if they want to stick on it. They don't seem confident either, but looks like they're running out on it at the very least. So this is going to be interesting. It's really going to be on Maxwell to deal with Jelly Peanut, especially because Jelly has that Mercy Pocket, and Maxwell definitely does not. So it's going to be that much more difficult for the flyer on Kryix to get a response going.
Yeah, look, they're already reconvening. They take that beautiful rotation, had natural cover, but Budget's off the high ground. Immediately being poked out, and at that half health split from the supports, they're not going to be getting any form of peel. And look at that. Eventually, the Monkey's going to be put down. 2012 all over again. The rest of the team just not going to be able to do much, just trying to get some pressure or ticks onto that point, especially with Ram still being alive. But look at that slam. Depresso is looking to take out Strider and manages to get that job, but Neutral finds Lucio. That Zenyatta is so deadly, and yet the rest of their team are finding the opportunities. Kryix being able to use their formations and brains to find the rest of these picks on the point. Sure, the Pharah is putting in major amounts of damage, but eventually Maxwell is being able to find them. They don't have the res to try to bring it back in their favor. The Mercy's coming back from spawn, but somehow Hog Mafia, with their ability to just play the game, I guess, they're bringing it back. They get the res back onto the Pharah, and they put it in their favor. But Hirsch and the Lucio Narwhal, they don't want to give it up just yet.
These teams are fighting tooth and nail for literally every tick on this control point, and it's utterly ridiculous. I mean, you have a barrage there from what felt like the skybox, didn't really find much.
Yeah.
But it did force a lot of rotation from the front line of Kryix.
Especially with Strider using the mines on the... has to try to get value with the Coalescence because they used it a little too late. But look at this, they're unfortunately just not going to be able to find much, as the rest of Hog Mafia have forced their respawns out of their favor, and they're getting the picks so they can't even recontest. Those 2 ticks, they may have been worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when you look at how close these teams are, I also want to look at the ult economies, because they're basically identical in a lot of ways. You have both Diva Bombs, you're basically going to have both main support ultimates. Granted, Ram isn't going to have the Coalescence anytime soon. But other than that, it's really neck and neck, and I have no idea how they're going to want to approach this next fight. I guess Maxwell can look for a duplicate, maybe onto Jelly Peanut or Lunacy.
Yeah, look at that, they're moving in. They use the
Tracer.
sound barrier combined with the copy on the Tracer. They're going to be building up a lot of pulse bombs. The Diva Bomb forces them off for a tiny bit of time, and really that pulse bomb really only hurts Lunacy for a tiny bit. We see her trying to make something happen, throwing it in the sky. But they got off for a tick! They got off for a second! It was so worth it as they win that point, and they're not going to be fighting in overtime. However, we're going to be seeing Hog Mafia still trying to win this fight, even though it's no longer in their favor.
You may have taken the point, but we're going to take this fight regardless, they say, but unfortunately not quite the case. Great Diva Bomb from Hirsch there at the very end. That's what cleared everyone off, because otherwise they would have just died. The point probably would have flipped over regardless, so not quite at the worst C9 I've ever seen. I don't know if you can really consider it a C9, but either way, Kryix finally get the cart moving along with not the biggest time bank in the world, right? Because that's going to be whittled down quite a lot on this Streets phase of Eichenwald. But taking down Jelly Peanut's Ash is going to be a great start to get it moving along.
I'm still impressed to see the Ash even being picked. I mean, normally it's with a Mercy, but it's understandable. They have the Zenyatta, so the damage boost is still there. Although, look at that, they find out Maxwell. That's really good. There's going to be no way they can start moving in. As Maxwell wants to be jumping on the high ground, part 4 is going to be booped off. We see the Pulse Bomb just manages to place. They do find neutral, and now they're reconvening back onto it with the Coalescence, and I am a little confused as we just see them continuously pushing forward. They managed to win these fights off just by 1 to 2 picks alone, and then slowly ease it in.
You know, there's a saying that there's like 40 million kinds of diva players in the world, right? But the most popular kinds are either the really hyper-defensive divas or the assassin divas that go in for all these picks. And Hirsch definitely reminds me of the latter style right now, because he's going in the backline almost perpetually and putting the pressure onto neutral and Mocha.
Yeah, look at that. Strider's able to find out Maxwell and place those mines to stop them from leaving. But they're going in! Budget's just a monkey! Just going in, using that primal range to boop them around. Hog Mafia are still trying to stall this as much as they can while the respawns are in their favor. But that bomb is going to be able to kind of force them into an uncomfortable position, especially with Lunacy the only person on the point. They're getting that momentum. They're not scared to keep pushing forward. And with 3 minutes to capture just this point, I'm scared they'll be able to get it in under 2:30.
Oh, well, they're still going. Granted, budget's falling is probably going to be the stop to the hyper-aggression, right? So now you're going to have a little bit of room to breathe from Hog Mafia, but not a ton, because the poke is still coming in for Maxwell. He's very much trying to build up to that duplicate. If he can get a Wrecking Ball or a Diva online with that, then that's probably going to be the go signal, despite budget not being back quite yet.
Yeah, we see Mocha use the rally. They finally want to be the initiators. Get out of my spawn. Get out of here. Go waste. We're going to waste your time, Big, for as long as possible. And get a pick onto your Tracer who's coming off on the pulse bomb. Haha, you don't play the game. Look at that. We even see Strider try to go for this land, build up that ult charge. And they're really overstaying their welcome to pick off Maxwell and the rest of the side of Kryix. And even Narwhal's going to be found out. Just a little unfortunate.
Yeah, they're basically chasing them all the way back to spawn, and while it does look like Strider might be getting a bit of hyper aggressive, he doesn't really get punished for it. So at the very least, there is that. It looks like he's setting up for a cheeky minefield, but I think Depresso scouted him out. So yeah, he's just gonna return all the way back to his team. However, Kryix are ready to go now.
Yeah, look at that. They're moving in. We see the Transcendence being able to save them, especially Strider from a sticky situation. Budgets being melted down. Those mines doing an amazing job of stopping them from being able to help out, especially with this copy in. Then it was a pretty clean fight, and it was kind of fundamental.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was basically invest a few ultimates, go in, win. Didn't feel like any particular combos or strategies were employed. It was just kind of like neutral Overwatch plus like one or two ultimates on each side. Interestingly enough, Maxwell decides he doesn't want any more of the Echo play, and he's going over to the Reaper. It kind of makes sense, I guess, because third point is a little bit close quarters.
Yep, they've lost 2 people, so they're using this bomb as a good way to engage. And while there may be no budget high ground 6 version, they're still moving forward, and they're getting the picks that they really needed. Lunacy does have the bomb, and Strider's able to find out Maxwell, so there is a form of recontest as they want to place the mines. No, not yet. They're waiting. They have 50 seconds for one more fight, and Strider goes down. Oh no.
Oh dear. Well, they're probably going to be able to touch again, but it's going to be a little bit of a hectic touch. Lunacy and Strider opted to not use their ultimates there at the very end because they wanted to save them for this fight, but that might come back to bite them.
Yeah, that sound barrier being used is gonna allow them to overstay their welcome. Strider pops out the mines. Nobody can come from the attacking side, yet Mocha's not gonna be able to use that rally. Bomb being placed on the point. They get 2 and 3 with it. This is no longer inside of Kryix's favor. Hershey's doing their best to try to make it some form of advantage, but they really only have 13 seconds left to try to do as much as they can. Hershey's gonna be picked off. Budget no longer gonna be able to play on the high ground as they have to touch the point. Can they even have the opportunity being poked out using that coalescence trying to make it, but the hook messed up, and with the boot from Mocha, they're gonna be able to win this out. Hog Mafia in the lead right now.
Wow. Okay. We see you, Hog Mafia. Definitely interesting looks, honestly, from both teams, but Hog Mafia definitely played its very weird. Oh, I didn't even realize the barrage was point blank. I thought it was further up in the sky, but you know, whatever works. Nice mid-air rocket onto Ram there. Close it out, and
Gotta say, Jelly Peanut definitely giving an opportunity for that MVP vote if you already haven't submitted it.
yeah, definitely. The votes are still open right up until the last map is finished. So get those in while you can. It determines who we interview at the very end of this broadcast. But in the meantime, it's going to be, let's see, well, Hog Mafia will get to ban the next map, and then Kryix is going to have to choose what is potentially their final map of this series, right? Because it's first to 3. Hog Mafia are up 2-1. So
Yeah.
they're on match point.
The interesting part about how the All-Stars work is that we can go back onto maps that we previously played, like map types, but not the same map, as long as it's not in a row. So we can go all the way back to 2CP if we want to, and they don't even have to play Escort, because they're basically dodging it from what I've been seeing. Interestingly, they willingly play 2CP, and that's the part that's caught me off guard, you know?
Well, to be entirely fair, the 2CP was predetermined, the first map. That is, so I don't think anyone willingly chose it other than the tournament admins, but so I'd be shocked if we were going to like Anubis or the other one, Hanamura, right, as opposed to probably going to like an Escort or maybe another Control, in all honesty. Kryix won Control. It was super close, but they won Control, so maybe they go back to that, right? At least they can win there.
I think that's the opportunity you're looking for, especially with chat having fun by saying budgets on the high ground. They're up to 6, so I wonder how far they're going to be able to bring that in, continuing into the maps. But this is a sticky situation. I think going back onto Control, you don't pick Nepal. I think if you pick Ilios, you're good, because I'm pretty sure that's in the map pool, but you go on Temple of Anubis, you've not Temple of Anubis, that's a whole different map. You go on Nepal, you shoot yourself in the foot. Luckily though, Anubis will be the map banned.
No real surprises there from Hog Mafia not wanting to play Anubis, because it's super awkward to play Wrecking Ball. Like, there's some set strategies with breaking the high ground on first point, but they're really niche, and they oftentimes don't work. So I don't blame them for just being like, get it out of here. We don't want to see it at all. Right. Now it's really just up to Kryix to pick that map, and like we said, it would make more sense if they decide to go for some sort of control map, possibly one where Wrecking Ball is less prevalent, maybe like Nepal. They seem to want to go King's Row. I don't think that's in the map pool, is it? No, it's in the map.
Well, no, it's in the map pool, but we just went.
Yeah, we
to
just played hybrid. There was something in my head saying, "Wait, we can't go there, if not yet." But yes, can't do hybrid right now. So
I think if they had the ability, they would only play hybrid.
I'm sure these teams would love to, outside of the fact that Blizzard World is in the map pool, because some teams have a love-hate relationship with that one, right? So
no, it's gone anyways, so they have nothing
Yeah.
to sweat about.
They don't have to worry about that one anymore. But at the very least, they have the opportunity to pick really anything that's not hybrid, or a map that we've already played, or banned, right? So at the very least, oh, by the way, Intel, you do have a loot box that you can open. It's right over your right shoulder, left shoulder. I'm not sure if your camera's flipped. But it's right
No,
behind
that's not a loot box. You're not. I'm not opening it. You're not gonna touch it. No, there is no loot box.
I'm pretty sure that's what chat was referencing. Whenever they said that, I forget if it was like Volsky or whatever.
No,
someone said it at some point.
No, they're not wrong, but I'm not acknowledging this thing, all right? What you should be acknowledging is the hydrate, because if we had the hydrate point things, chat would be using it. That's kind of what I use it for there, but still, it's kind of interesting. We get an opportunity for these teams. Stop looking at my background, by the way. That's weird. But I'm catching them. But we are still waiting for how they're wanting to kind of pick this out. But I'm more worried to see what they what Kryix really need to kind of bring it in. Because while I think Control will work for them, we're going over to Rialto. So what do they do to play around? That's a really good Wrecking Ball map.
Yeah, that was my first thought too, is that's a really good Wrecking Ball map. What do you do? Double Shield has been prevalent there as of late. Play that and stun the life out of Strider, I guess. Play like the Kryix, or as chat's been calling him, Dave. Play the Brig. Play I don't know, the Sigma, the Orisa. So you have basically every stun in the book outside of maybe like a hack, because Sombra would be a little bit awkward. But yeah, other than that, like I think Kryix would be remiss for playing something like a traditional dive or a brawl, because it's just not worked on these kinds of maps outside of Control, right? So I have my doubts, but I'm always open to being proven wrong. But again, Hog Mafia just seems so on point with anything that's not Control, and even Control, they're playing it really close.
Yeah, I think the biggest bright side for Kryix is that Budget will be able to play on the high ground. That seems to be what they're looking for right now, or at least Twitch chat.
Not if he's Orisa. Once he gets off, then that's it. So if they play the double shield, it's gonna be very limited, the additions to that count.
No, you play the monkey and you just full head in, just whole monkey brain in, But still, I think this is gonna be a little worrying because we're now at match point. We do see Hog Mafia. They now have room to win this, and I think there's a lot of ways that they can kind of clean this out. But I wonder how Kryix really want to play it. Do you run the Torbjorn, be able to play, kind of shoot them around, mess with them? Do we see them purely play really far back and just run pure CC? But, like, come on, theory with me.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. From what we've seen from Kryix thus far, they seem to be most comfortable on these dive compositions. So, I mean, like, if you want to play into that strength, just go, like, full six-man, rush it down mid and punish everything out of neutral and Mocha. Like, wherever neutral is, assuming they're still playing the Wrecking Ball comps on Hog Mafia, which, I mean, why wouldn't they at this point, right? They're probably going to be playing that Zen. Just kill neutral every single time, first thing to die, no matter what. Either neutral dies or the entirety of Kryix does, right? If they want to play that, like, super aggressive six-man that they've been trying to play a lot of the time in the previous maps. Other than that, they could definitely try and just CC it up, poke it down, but it doesn't really seem to be Kryix's style from what we've seen of them thus far.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Although Hog Mafia's kind of consistency to just run out with Wrecking Ball and then variations, fully impressive. I don't think we kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've been so used to to kind of casting amateur areas to where you don't ever realize that tier 3 is its own area, it's its own section, and these teams are thriving by playing the best that they can instead of just kind of what optimally works on this point. They play what's optimal to them, and that's something I think a lot of lesser teams need to do if they really want to reach this sort of area.
Oh, absolutely. When you're comparing it to, you're comparing legitimate tier 3 to like the community level of play, right? It's completely different in terms of how these players and how these teams strategize, how they play their win conditions, even just the basic tempo, right? You can have a high level of play at like a community level in terms of like SR, but it's entirely different when you're talking about legitimate tier 3. There's a difference even between like top 500 competitive ladder and these teams who are that next step up, right? They're able to just play that much better, that much faster compared to really anything outside of the legitimate professional scene, right? And these are all people who are hoping to be professional or semi-professional sometime in the near future. So this is very much like that missing rung on the ladder that a lot of people don't pay attention to, unfortunately. But now that the gates have opened, we can see what they're running. No surprises from Hog Mafia. They're on the offense, running it down with the Wrecking Ball composition.
I told you they were going with that monkey. There, Kryix really have no reason why not to go 8-brain. And look at that, Twitch chat's gonna be happy. Budget's on the high ground. Sure, Jelly Peanut is poking around, is able to start getting kind of a lot of ult charge. That's the entire point of playing this Echo, especially with the stickies. Though we do see Ram having some nice peel over from Narwhal, which is a big heart. But this is where the dive comes in. They're trying to find out any target, and yet they immediately disengage. But the payload's gonna be stuck in this kind of small corridor while both of these teams are in this neutral fight waiting for someone to make a mistake.
Look at how hyper passive neutral is playing. It's basically just bodyguarded by Lunacy on the points, and he's not even remotely allowing for any sort of dive to come in without over investing resources from Kryix. I really like that because he knows darn well that he is the primary target, so it's forcing the front line of Hog Mafia to push in and get a little bit hyper aggressive, right, to force mistakes out of Kryix, because otherwise they're going to be punishing the Zenyatta 24/7.
Yeah, I do want to point out, so far in the points, nobody's voting for Hog Mafia, and I can see why. Budget's using that nano to be able to move in. Doesn't get much, so we see Jelly Peanut actually using the copy. But they've lost their mercy, and this payload's not going to be moving any further. They want to try to win this fight before they have any opportunity. That Budget's gone, and the Pulse Bomb able to find out Narwhal because Strider poops them in. Also trades out with Maxwell. So the Bob, no, wait, where was the Bob? I didn't even see the Bob. No bueno, no bueno. As we see the rest of their team just kind of snuggling in. Ram's getting that peel in, but the Ana is just going to eventually... gone, and the rally from Narwhal allows them to play a lot cleaner. That pulse bomb gets eaten. Maxwell just gonna be a little tilted from that as Budget's struggling to stay alive. Narwhal just doing the best that they can to give those packs over to Maxwell, and they're perfectly playing on this point eventually to find out Jelly Peanut. Sure, the res is coming in, but the rally's there. How did they get that out? Enabled, and we see no one's really going to come in from the attacking side as Budget takes the majority of that damage, and the bomb's there. It's going to hit the majority of Hirsch's mech, but the heal is there. Budget looking to go into the backline as Narwhal's going to be finally found out. They're booping around the copy rebuilt, looking to try to recontest inside this fight. Budget eventually is still dangerously low, can't really kind of contest inside this fight without a tiny bit more healing. Gets it, and Hirsch is going to be the one traded in the meantime. That pulse bomb gets placed on the card. It's not going to be able to find much, but the rest of their team are no longer going to be able to contest until Maxwell decides, I'm just going to be able to play a little bit of Scribble Knots and give it up. Oh my goodness, what a long fight.
Yeah, neither team wanted to give that up. Weren't really losing enough people to succumb to the spawn advantage, right? Which is significantly less than something like third point, right? So coming into this upcoming fight, because they didn't want to give up the fight, it's going to be a little bit of an ultimate disadvantage for the offense, but I'm not really sure it matters if they keep disengaging like that.
Yeah, they find out Mocha really early. The Transcendence is a little bit too late, especially with that bomb in such a nice spot. Neutral's gonna be found out was just a little bit saw out inside the room, and everyone's stuck inside of this alleyway. The stairs are eventually going to just be mugged. Hog Mafia, just not the Mafia that we know.
Certainly not. As it's going to be the cleanup for Kryix, and this is going to get a little bit dicey now because this is the particular spots where second point can often get stalled into oblivion. This bridge right here has seen many a clock run out as it's just free reign for someone like Depresso, assuming he doesn't die. Okay, well, never mind.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, although they do manage to find out Strider, which is beautiful. You stop that Wrecking Ball who had the mines. Although they do want to use the Valk, they do lose neutral in that. They sacrifice to bring in Strider to win it, and Budget's gonna die mid-air, unfortunately enough. Ram wants to try to help this out with the Coalescence, but gets stuck with the Pulse Bomb, is gonna be punished for it, and the rest of their team is only Hirsch, who is a baby diva, and is stuck on top of the payload.
Yep, definitely. Got really dicey there. Like I said, that bridge is not easy to fight over, but Hog Mafia did a great job of focusing down anyone who dared to stare them down, and it's going to be probably one, maybe two more fights for this second points, right, before we start getting into the final approach for that. I'd expect to see the duplicates come out probably in tandem.
Yeah, look at that. They get a beautiful dive onto Mocha, being able to shut that down. However, we see Jelly Peanut on the copy, throwing this bomb out. They've lost both of their support line, but Budget's been picked off a little bit too split off. The sound barrier is really only to help them move back into the fight as they're looking to find these values. And it seems Maxwell is finally just getting good, like amazing value off of these stickies and shuts down the entirety of this push.
Yeah, I said Maxwell. I was expecting Maxwell to use the duplicate in response to Jelly Peanut, but he didn't really need it. He was getting so much value just off of his basic kit, and Depresso using the Bob there is significantly more disposable of an ultimate, I guess is the best way to put it, right? The duplicate is significantly higher impact, whereas the Bob is much better for stalling out, which is basically what Kryix wanted and needed to do there. We're coming into one fight territory, and now Maxwell can have a much higher impact on this duplicate whenever he decides to use it.
Yeah, they have to kind of split their attentions because Strider wants to play on the point and kind of win that off while the rest of the tank line are moving forward to find out the support line, but they're somehow surviving.
Oh.
Wang does get headshotted very clean from Depresso, and they're having issues being able to push this payload. They have the ult economy, but look at this. Kryix are moving forward, and they're able to get a 2K, and then the boop almost manages to get neutral off the map while using Transcendence. It's so rude, but Budget not being able to find up the dial-up eventually gets them, but they at least forced out that one Transcendence.
Yeah, we have a duplicated bomb coming in onto point. It's not really going to do anything other than demeching Lunacy. The bomb there, not really doing anything, unfortunately.
They're trying to do their best, but look at those stickies and the Bob being the true MVP. I guess they'll be the one to play on high ground, being on top of the stairs and cleaning up the picks. As Strider wants to place those mines to try to make something happen or stall it out, they just wait. Depresso truly going to be getting play of the game for that one as we see them stopping directly on second point.
Yep, and that's pretty commonplace for the cart to stop, so not a terrible push, but I'm sure Hog Mafia would have loved to get it just a little bit further. Right now, there is a definitive win condition on the board for Kryix, and it's not necessarily impossible. You know, if there was a full capture through more of like a continuation condition, as we've seen in the past couple of maps, besides Control, then it would be a different story. But this is looking like Kryix really want to bring this to a map 5.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely they're playing great, but I think they also have the Twitch chat bias because absolutely 0 people voted for Hog Mafia to win this. And I mean, with the payload where you can check the points, they have just over 9.7k, 100%, not one person. I'm thinking this is Budget. He seems to be a fan favorite right now, and it's interesting. I think where the payload is, it is very much in Kryix's favor to kind of win this out. That is a very hard point to kind of hold on the Wrecking Ball composition because you're just going to be picked off slowly, especially if you get staggered. But look at this. They go back onto the dive, and Depresso being on this Ash has been kind of a savior in disguise.
Yeah, definitely. This map in general is really great for Ashe because there are sight lines that are a little bit too claustrophobic for Widowmaker, but long enough that a McCree wouldn't get a full value out of them. So Hanzo, Ashe are extremely valuable here if you can hit your shots, which obviously Depresso has been. He was lighting up the kill feed nonstop. Now you have Jelly Peanut actually onto the Sombra as well, so going to be a lot less spam damage, right, and more just punishments, backline, frontline, you name it. Whoever gets out of position on the side of Kryix, I feel sorry for them because they're going to have at least 3 people breathing down their necks.
Yeah, look at that. They want to take that dive really early as they're immediately just poking in. Jelly Peanut wants to be able to build up that EMP clockwork, which is why you see them putting pressure on to not only Hirsch but Budget. However, they're just gonna ignore, go straight after neutral. Maxwell gets picked off in the mid-fight, and Budget's eventually gonna be punished for going in alone. And look at that, they just have to retry again for the next fight.
Yeah, the dive was there. It was good. They had people there and ready. But I mean, the peel from Hog Mafia was spectacular. It was immaculate, right? Like chef's kiss. Everything about it was great. Neutral didn't even feel threatened. He just got more ult charge from it. He's like, oh, yeah, thank you for feeding that to me. But either way, just keep playing like that, and Hog Mafia can very easily first hold this. But they're not going to be able to play perfect forever. There's going to be mistakes forced out by Kryix. It's really going to be on the offense to play off of those mistakes they force. But EMP is currently online, so that's what I'm expecting to see rather soon.
Yeah, we see Budget getting off the high ground, trying to help push that payload, while Strider's going after the support line, but it's just going to be forced out. The EMP is built, and it pops out. Really only finds out Maxwell, but the damage is in for Hirsch's mech, and that pulse bomb is going to be the finisher of it. As they're looking to just try to make something happen, they're stuck inside this small kind of corridor area. Not really a room, but not much. The Transcendence being placed in for Strider, and the pulse bomb from Maxwell is going to be eaten as well as punished. Ram eventually is going to use that Coalescence trying to help out the team, but this is no Dragon Ball Z. They're still in this fight. That bomb is thrown back in the worst position. It's only getting damage in because Strider's allowing it, but it helps build up the mines and the Diva Bombs there. They're gonna place it on the point combined with the mines. It's forced them off. They can't even recontest being the 6-man that they are. Look at them just struggling inside this small room. Narwhal does have the sound barrier, which is kind of optimal.
Yeah, well, you do have some ultimates being built up on the side of Kryix. That last fight was really hectic, and I don't know if they used their ultimates as optimally as they could have, so it got really awkward now because, I mean, what do they use to push in?
Yeah, look at that. That is a massive EMP that hits a 6-man. And even though that was a really good engagement, and they do get Wang, they just got punished so hard.
Not only did the EMP get 6 people, but it stripped away Norwal's beat like 2 milliseconds after it was laid out, right? I don't believe it was animation canceled, but it certainly was negated almost instantaneously, which is like every Sambo's dream, right? That's probably going to be playing the game, or should be, in a sense. But Strider kind of getting a bit hyper-aggressive and messing up what was a really clean fight win into a clear opening for Kryix if they want to push in.
Good focus fire, but now look, they want to take the high ground over, and yet Neutral slash Mocha have already rotated to the perfect position. They don't have they don't have really any room to be divin on, or if that's even a word, I don't know. But we see them getting ready. Wang is going to be found out, and they're going to be throwing that bomb, trying to find. It does get shielded, and they use that trance to push forward, but Mocha is going to be denying them the boop kill, managing to find out Budget. The Coalescence is there, and the Pulse Bomb's not finding much, but they're able to look for Mocha. They're still getting those advantages as Neutral is going to be found out, and the Sombra is going to be the one who almost gets attacked. Strider places the mines on the point, giving the team time to come back, but they really are going to just be shutting down those mines. Nobody's going to be touched or really pressured out. Wang is back onto the Widowmaker. While we see Lunacy remech but get punished immediately, has the mines, but this is one last fight. We're stuck in overtime as we see Budget split off from the team, pops the Primal, booping around that Sombra, has the EMP. Do not let them get there. Strider eventually going to be found out, but it seems that they was just enough to allow them to move it there.
Wait,
yeah, well,
okay, there we go. I was gonna say they just let Wang live, but no, they most certainly do not. They're gonna be pushing forward, and while they don't have the best time bank in the world,
Budget's on higher elevation.
Yes, I see the chat's been keeping a keen eye on that one. I'm sure they are thrilled to be in the double digits now, but more crucially for Kryix in general, they got the cart completely across the bridge, and they're probably gonna get it to the little choke points, which is really the last major choke point they have to cross to get us to the golden box of victory, which is pretty good if they want to get it to a map 5.
Yeah, we see Hirsch has the Diva Bomb as a good engagement, but that AEP finds out Ram and the Diva, so they really don't have much to do besides just wait. They've lost their Moira, so that's less healing on this side, but still winnable in a sense. Depresso does take in a lot of damage, but gets that Dynamite in to build up that Bob, but is still managed to be found out. Wang does get traded as a Pulse Bomb is going to be stuck onto the wall. Maximal having issues, and Mocha being able to pick them out. They are going to be having more of a fight as they continue to go in. They pop that bomb, and the Transcendence manages to save Neutral Zone Life combined with the rally. They're going to be popping out that armor, and really, that was just a slap in your own face. They shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, I feel like the winnable situations aren't exactly as winnable as Kryix might hope, and it's really just handicapping them in these upcoming fights. They could have used that Pulse Bomb, they could have used that Coalescence, they could have used the Diva Bomb with this last fight that they have. Instead, they really just have a bomb and coming up on a Primal Rage, as well as losing Ram so early on.
My goodness.
It's looking bad for him.
You know, budget's the reason why I'll never open up my loot box. Chat, he's not even at 15 high grounds. Look at this. He also gets Ram killed. They're stuck inside this small room, and they get Maxwell. They need that Tracer to help touch the point, and they're slowly staggering as Hirsch gets found out in 30 seconds. Less than that they have to touch, but Jelly Peanut has the EMP.
If Kryix has any hope of winning this map and bringing it to a map 5, they need to push the cart of relatively significant distance completely in overtime, but the CMP is probably going to be what seals the deal.
That's absolutely insane! It hits the targets it needs to, gets 3, and that payload is not in the room to be able to get a back cap. Budget and Ram tried their best, but it seems that Hog Mafia may not be playing Hog, but they're definitely so greedy like pigs to be able to win this out in a 3-1 series.
What a ridiculous game. Right up until Rialto, in all honesty. It felt neck and neck, right? It felt like Kryix definitely started to wane a little bit on their offense. It just felt like they kept getting greedy. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but that's all I have to say right now, where they would over-invest resources and ultimates, and it basically kneecapped them for the upcoming fights, and then they proceeded to lose. You know, it was close-ish, but Rialto definitely felt very much like Hog Mafia's win.
Yeah, it does hurt, but look on the bright side. We're at the end, and this doesn't mean they're over because they'll just be moving over to the losers bracket, so their series isn't done. However, it's time for MVP. So we will most likely be going over to a break. So put in your votes right now, because there is no opportunity after this as well. Make sure that while you're waiting, you hit that little follow. You do subs. It's September. Share that love. All of the donations will go straight over to a kind of winning spot or paying anyone that helps out. So we thank you so much for staying tuned, because whoever will be MVP won't be one of surprise.
No breaks in this one, Intel. So we
No
just
breaks?
gotta banter back and forth for a few
No
minutes.
breaks. All right, well, I don't know about you, Mr. Akronator, but have you seen who the MVP voting is in favor of so far?
No, I have not.
All
Let
right.
me see if I can
Well,
try and pull that up.
don't leak anything yet, but I want to point this out, okay? We've got Neutral, Mocha, Jellybean, Strider, Exheld, and Hersha and Budget as candidates for that MVP. We have Strider, Jellybean, Peanut, Mocha. Jelly Peanut. We have the second highest right now is 6. You want to know who got number 1 with the highest votes at 69% of the funny number?
Based off Twitch chat, I have an idea.
Oh, yeah. Once Budget's able to come in here, we'll be able to interview the MVP at 27 votes. That's more than 50%. Twitch chat loves this man. And I'm guessing if he cut at the high ground, you know, you really got to give them props. I mean, sure, wasn't 15 times on the high ground, but it happens.
I believe it got up to 14 though, so just one off. At least if Twitch chat is to be believed. Twitch.
I don't trust them.
I trust them enough to be able to count to 15. Well, 14 in this case, but you know.
Yeah, but look at them.
Same deal.
They spent 9.7k. 5 people spent 9.7k. Not one person voted on Hog Mafia. You've just been hit by capitalism. And how do you feel? At least they got budget in, you know?
It would have been insanely funny if a singular person ended up voting on Hog Mafia. I'm surprised no one did. Like at the very end there.
Now budget's just different like that. That's what I think. By the time the map started, the vote was over. And really, honestly, it was an amazing match. Although the person you've been memeing of all game and the one you've been waiting for, Sir Budget, introduce yourself to Twitch chat.
What's up? I'm Budget. I'm here. I don't know.
You are, in fact, here.
Yeah.
So, quite a game. Didn't obviously go as you guys had wanted, but ridiculously close.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. You know, sometimes, the maps just don't work out the way you want them to, and you just have fights where you're like, oh man, I wish I could have done this. A lot of mistakes. I think we were just like a little bit nervous and a little bit, just we didn't really have our heads there. I'm gonna be honest, but you know what? Fine, we take those.
That's understandable, and I like that mentality of just we take those. I definitely think you guys still went neck and neck as hard as you can, but I kind of want to get an understanding of the in-player environment. What was kind of the biggest struggle going up against Hog Mafia?
The biggest struggle was definitely the fact that they were always gonna run the ball. We were always trying to think about what maps we can pick that will possibly be bad for ball. What maps were just gonna be hard counters and what characters we can play that was just bad for ball. I think we did a little bit too much. I think we overdid it, and I think that's why we lost. But it's unlucky. But yeah, no, it's definitely their ball. The fact that they only run one comp, which is ball Zen, and they have two players that are actually really good at that, right? So I think that to me is what was the biggest struggle.
Definitely seemed to get in your head from what you just described.
Yeah.
In particular on Rialto towards the very end of your last push there, you guys, it felt like you were over investing ultimates and already lost fights. Do you think was that like something that was planned? Were you trying to take a losing fight and bring it to a winning fight, or was it just kind of like no one was communicating, everything was going to chaos?
I think it may have been a little bit too much confidence. I think that we got a little bit overconfident, and we're like, oh no, yeah, we can turn this, and yeah, I mean, but hey, again, it happens, right? Like, yeah, I mean, sometimes we got stupidly low, and yeah, we just used ults. I don't know.
And you brought it back, so honestly, it's 100% understandable. I think you guys did incredible for what you did, and that mindset really is kind of underrated at times because it's what allowed you guys to win. But now you'll be moving into the losers bracket. Do you feel like this is gonna affect you guys' mentals, or you're just gonna say, nope, we're bringing it back?
To be honest, I don't think that it will, and if it does, I'm gonna try to sort that out as quick as possible because it truly isn't something to get mad about, honestly. Like, we lost. We take those. It's already in the past. There's no point in dwelling on it. We just need to fix exactly what we need to fix and just take it as that.
I definitely
Well said.
agree. But Mr. Eichner, got any questions?
I do have one final question for you. Looking forward instead of in the past, looks like, if I'm reading the bracket correctly, your next opponent in the lower bracket is going to be Ignition. Have any particular thoughts about them, or just going to take it as it comes?
To be honest, there's not really much that we look into with the teams. Of course, we did look into this one because they do have one tricks, but to be honest, each team is the same unless they run in only one comp, and so we're just gonna try to play our best and hopefully win.
All right.
I guess my last question for you, besides from the fact that Twitch chat kept saying budget on the high ground up to 15 times, they did do it late, so I'm not going to open up my loot box on my shoulder. It never will be open. But my question is, do you have any shout-outs, any comments, anything you want to say for the viewers to be listening in?
Well, first off, I'd like to, shout out my English teacher, Mr. Hogan. He was a fucking huge inspiration to me. Always kept me, straight. But I don't know. On the real, my teammates, like, sometimes they're not the most positive people, but I can tell that they really like want to put all they have into the game, and it's just a really nice team. I think that because we all get each other as friends, and I think that we're all like pretty cohesive. I think they're just really good people that I think deserve a shout out. And also our coaches and our staff, they're just all very good people. Yeah.
A lot of love. But you're
Yep.
free to go.
All right, man. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hey, anytime. Thank you so much. Mr. Acronym, I'd say this has been one of the most enjoyable matches that I've seen so far. And this is only week 2. There's so much to come in out of this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of bracket remaining, both upper and lower bracket. There's so many more matches to catch up on and wait for, right? So if you want to keep up with all that, follow Star Esports on, the Twitter, the Twitch, the YouTube, join the Discord, all that good stuff. Support them for putting on this great tournament.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun over here on the broadcast side, especially. I just want to give one more reminder to stay tuned because we will be having more matches coming up, especially with the fact that it's September, so you can hit that sub, the follows, everything Acronator said is 100% correct. However, we want to be thanking Refuse for being our producer on this side. I'm username_Intel, that's Mr. Acronator, and we thank you so much for joining us on All-Star Brawl Live.